Hello. So, we will be continuing our discussion on cloud computing. Today, we will talk about some aspects of cloud security. Rather, we will look at a sort of a scenario where how this security plays a role and what are the different aspects. This is primarily with SaaS type of cloud, more of collaborating SaaS clouds. So, this what we are looking that at present day or in near future, that lot of this sort of clouds will be communicating between each other. That means, in other sense, this consumer or different stakeholders having their application in the cloud will be communicating with other applications in other cloud. So, in other sense, so it is a collaborative SaaS cloud or collaborative collaboration at the application level of the cloud. So, today's discussion will be looking at one of this, what are the different security aspects when we collaborate between each other. We will see that there are very tricky issues of which comes into play. So, this one of this approach. This is work of one of my PhD scholar Ninoy Ghosh. His work will be describing, but we will be looking at more broader aspects that how things will be there. So, this will be good to for many of you who are looking at some sort of a research or some sort of a more studying into these aspects of the things. So, it is security issues in collaborative SaaS cloud. So, as just to recap, if you look at the security issues in cloud computing, so which are typically or unique to this cloud is one is co-tenancy, right? Number of applications are residing or different users are residing in the same physical infrastructure. So, co-tenancy is a major issue. And lack of control on outsourced data and application, that is another typically or uniqueness of this type of cloud platform, right. So, we have once I offload my data and application on or outsource in a cloud, then we do not have much control over that things, or our control is decided by the provider, right. The whatever I can control or whatever the handlers I am having for the control is primarily decided by the service provider. So, these are in other sense, if you look at the security point of view, this is a constraint of how my data need to be secured, what is the how much it is exposed to the external other applications and other type of users and all those things. There are other general concerns like inadequate policies and practices, that is another concern, and insufficient security control, as we are talking about. So, customers use cloud services to serve their clients. So, customers can use a cloud services to serve their clients. So, running the applications on those cloud services needs to establish trust relationships, right. So, there is a requirement that how much I trust a service provider. So, there is a major requirement for that, and this can be beneficial for both the stakeholders, the customer and provider. So, it is not only the provider, how the customer trusts the provider, there is a question of how much whom I am, if I am a cloud service provider, if the customers for me or the consumer of the services should be also trustworthy. So, they should not be malicious customer who will create a problem out of the things. It is not always that it is not that thing that because the cloud service provider, their business is selling these services. So, they may not be malicious or they may not have any malicious intent. However, you can in the process you can have some malicious customers, which are usually the scenario who can use the services, use the platform to attack or peep into others data and type of things. So, if I this is a thing which is available in various literature. We have also seen that if you look at the security responsibilities, in case of IES, the responsibility up to the hypervisor end, after that it is having the operating system or the guest operating system and so on and so forth, it goes to the tenant, right. So, the provider's responsibility up to hypervisor. In case of PaaS cloud, provider responsibility is up to that platform or that where the solution stack is there. In case of a SaaS, it is responsibility goes up to the interface, application interface, right. So, it is the things like if you am using a say a API for word processing. So, it is up to that level the responsibility of providers come into play. For the consumer, it's up to that application level the services are this security are handled by the provider. So, we can see that at various type of clouds we have different type of level of security. So, in case of a SaaS, there is lot of things which depend on the provider's end. Like I am if I am using a say word processing service or any type of text editing service. So, as I am using that API, somebody else also may be using that API. So, it is the same application level, I can have different instances which are working for different type of things. So, SaaS cloud based collaboration. So, what broadly we try to mean that APIs for sharing resources and information, service consumer or customers, human users, applications, organization domains and anybody, service provider or the cloud vendor. SaaS cloud centric collaboration. So, there are some of the essential things like data sharing issues, problems handled like interdisciplinary approaches meant to be taken to handle different type of issues. So, common concern is integrity of the data shared across multiple user, may be compromised things, right. As there is a the data is being shared across or the basic platform is shared across multiple users. So, there may be a compromises and there may be a chance of being compromised. And how do I choose a ideal vendor or a service provider is one of the major challenge. If there are a number of providers, then how do I choose the provider. So, as I mentioned, this is work of one of my PhD student, he is Dr. Ninoy Ghosh, who worked on this area, and we will be taking some part of his work to describe. And more we will be taking the challenges we taken up in this particular problem. So, it will be good to look at those type of things. So, type of collaboration in multi domain or cloud systems is tightly coupled or federated can be one way of looking at it, where I have strong connectivity between this type of federating clouds, or they are loosely coupled systems. So, that there are federating cloud, but they are loosely coupled systems. So, I have instances in different cloud, maybe in the same cloud, but they are loosely coupled. So, they are not very strongly coupled. So, there are various challenges. Securing loosely coupled collaboration in cloud environment is a major problem, and security mechanisms mainly proposed for tightly coupled systems. So, for loosely coupled there are not much security mechanisms. So, whenever you look for the security mechanism, as we discussed earlier, it is a end-to-end phenomena. So, there is the requirement goes hand in hand. So, in turn it comes to be a more tightly coupled thing. Restriction in the existing authentication and authorization mechanisms in cloud, that is another problem, that the type of mechanisms you are having in the present day cloud may be restrictive to having those security phenomena in place. So, there are a lot of challenges and which motivates, or if we look at in the other way, these are the motivation for having research or study in this area. Like SaaS cloud delivery model, so maximum lack of control, right. So, whole control on the service provider end. So, this has the minimum control on the consumer end. No active data stream, audit trails, outage reports are directly available to the things. Whatever is provided by the consumer need to be looked into. So, major concern in usage of the cloud services. So, broad scope address security issues in the cloud we need to address. So, there is a concept of cloud marketplace coming up, like that rapidly growing due to recent advancement. So, we have a typically a cloud marketplace where number of providers, number of consumers, there is a economic model which goes on. I am not talking about the cloud economics, talking about that where you go for better services, not only pricing, quality of services, better SLAs, better security and things are there. So, availability of multiple service provider is a major challenge of choosing that which service provider we need to look at. So there is inconsistent in service and guarantees, no standard clauses. So, there is a selecting an ideal SaaS cloud provider and is a issue, and how to, if I after selection, what are the different other security challenges can come up. So, there are other things like online collaborations are becoming pretty popular, right. There are several security issues like finding a ideal provider, relevance of today's context, there is a loosely coupled collaboration, dynamic data information sharing. Like if you look at any e-marketplace or look at any type of service provider, like what we see that any type of things where you purchase and over online purchase, selection, etc., even your travel booking centers. So, there are different parties which are being connected, and mostly they are loosely coupled. There are parties who are provider of the products, there are parties who are provider of the financial area like credit card, debit card, to other type of services. There are parties who are the courier services and type of things, then they are being connected over in a loosely coupled way. So, our goal is to select an ideal SaaS cloud provider and securing loosely coupled collaboration in its environment. So, what are the different aspects? So, what are looking for a typical approach for that? It is not like that there cannot be other approaches, but what way we can go into this particular problem. So, if you look at our one of the objective is to whether we can develop a framework, like as I mentioned that in this particular work we developed a framework called CSP, selecting a trustworthy and competent collaboration service provider, right. So, there can be different CSPs, n set of CSPs, and registered in that particular some sort of a central authority, and the customer requesting to select a SaaS provider for business outsourcing, and it recommends that CSP particular K or CSP I is the best suited for its requirement, looking primarily at the security aspects, right. So, that is the goal of the thing. There can be after the selection there can be select the request for accessing the local resources. So, once I select the particular CSPs, then we want to look at the select requests for accessing local resources within the cloud for anonymous users, because we do not know who are the users, such that both access risk and the security uncertainty due to the information sharing are kept low. So, our objective is to that access risk and security uncertainty for information sharing should be kept low or minimal. So, if I have that different customer in different domain, like a domain 1, domain 2, domain 3, and they are collaborating in some way or other, say we need to have some sort of a mechanisms. Here we worked on a fuzzy inference system which gives say that. So, requesting domain, collaborating request and set of permissions, right, and say requests reputation, requester reputation, local object security level, like and set of permission authorized for the collaborations. So, it may so happen that I request for a set of operations, and then I based on the basic policy engine and based on requester reputation and local object security level, I grant a set of permission authorized for the collaboration. right. So, it is if some sort of a analogy we try to do, like I want to access some a particular office or type of things, and then based on my reputation or credential, I may be given access to different type of things. Like I can be said that you can enter the campus, you can enter the visitor lounge, but you cannot enter the actual office. Based on my reputation and other type of credential, I may be allowed to enter the actual office, but however I cannot enter the say computing system lab or the where actual labs are there. So, it based on your level of authority and your requirement and requesting domain, you go on things. Like I go to a bank, and if I am just going to deposit some check or some document, then I go somewhere. If I want to look at meet the manager, I go to some other level of accessibility and type of things, and it depends that my requirement type of things. Or in other sense, if this means access permissions or access role are decided by the my requesting role and what is the permissible things for different type of objects. Like if my accessing a particular section of the thing is a, if we will take a object, then based on its access policy I need to be filtered. So, in case of a collaborative cloud, then when the customer comes with a type of request, based on its reputation and other type of access policies on the objects, it has been granted a set of things. It is not likely that whatever the particular customer has requested, everything has been permitted, but a subset of that can be permitted based on its reputation. So, other objective can be formulate a heuristic to look at that IDRM problem, inter-domain role mapping problem, such that minimal access privilege is granted. So, that is a problem for different type of things. Like if I say from organization A, I want to access something at organization B, then the role of organization, the role I am having in organization A need to be mapped to equivalent role in the other organizations, right. Like I am accessing as a financial organization from organization say 1 to another some data in the organization 2, and here I am accessing as a say a manager of level 1, and that data in order to which is equivalent to manager of level 2 there, say then my role need to be mapped to that particular level, otherwise I cannot access the thing. So, this is a role mapping problem is a problem which is there already, and we need to look at it is there in this type of collaborative cloud also. So, here also we try to say that requesting domain collaborating request authorize a set of permissions, and based on some heuristic for solving the IDRM problem, we will see that this is a hard problem, and so we need to have some greedy search based algorithm and try to have a mapped a set of roles with a minimum access permission. So, minimal access permission, which it tries to say that I need to given that level of permission, which is that minimal set of permission which I need to, which is required to execute the things. Suppose I want to read a document, so I can be given only read permission, I can be given read and write permission. So, the minimal set may be the reading the thing, right. So, that it is no access permissions are no excess permissions are given to the thing. And another objective may be a distributed secure collaborative framework which uses only local information to dynamically detect and remove access conflicts. That is another major challenge in any type of loosely coupled system. So, how I can have a dynamic framework with the only local informations. Now, I want to access organization 1 from or a organization 1 running in cloud instance in a cloud say in cloud provider CSP1 want to access another data in CSP2 of another organization, then I may not have all the information of this either the CSP or the access right of the things. So, I need to look at my local resources or local information and try to have the maximum security. In other sense, when you have a loosely coupled things, you may not carry all the credentials whatever it is having into collaborative. So, you should be there should be a mechanisms or there should be a way or there should be an approach that how I map it into my way of looking at it. So, here also we tried a requesting domain collaborating request with a set of roles, activation of multiple roles in the user sessions, right, and access conflict due to the cycle generation. There can be, if there is a cycle generation, there can be a access conflict. That means, some document one way I am not able to access due to my particular role in a particular organization, but if it is goes through a cycle, I can reach to this type of things. So, there can be access conflict. So, I need to have a conflict detection and conflict removal, and then I should have a conflict free collaboration request, right. So, this sort of mechanisms we need to look into. So, one is the selection of trustworthy and competent SaaS cloud provider for collaboration. So, there are challenges of most of the reported works have not presented. So, there are several challenges. So, objective is the model trust, reputation, competence of the service provider. So, we are looking at 3 components: trust, reputation, competence. So, they are very much interlinked, but again they have some distinct property. So, how much it is trusted, whether it is competent to do that, and what is its reputation, right, of doing a particular things or security type of things. So, there are again challenges if you look at the SLAs, because someone may argue that the SLAs tries to cover this, like majority of the cloud providers guaranteed availability of services, right. Consumer not only demand availability of guarantee, but also other performance related assurance which are equally business critical. So, I am not only looking at the availability as a consumer, but also that assurance that this will be done in this type of in time frame or in a up to the completion rate. Present day cloud SLAs contain non-standard clauses regarding assurance and compensation following a violation. So, there are compensation or the penalty scheme, they follow some non-standard clauses. Non-standard in the sense there is no standardized mechanism across the cloud thing. So, one again establish a standard set of parameters for cloud SLAs, since it reduces the perception risk of the outsourced services. So, there should be way to reduce the perception risk. So, this is again we try to look at a framework where there are different customer. So, interaction rating and temporal matrices are computed. So, trust estimation, reputation estimation, worthiness of the computation, then risk estimation and risk computation. On the other hand, what we have recommendation and standard security controls which drives the SLA managers, and all this with the service provider there are SLAs, right. They provide some level of SLAs, then competence estimation, competence computation. One side that we calculate trustworthiness, another side competence, risk estimation, risk computation of the particular things, and interaction risk. Out of that we try to find out interaction risk between for different service provider. So, there are different flow of this Cell CSP framework, that is one is risk estimation can be relational risk, direct interaction, trust estimation, same thing we want to put in the flow chart. The second is recommending access request from anonymous users for authorization. So, one is that risk based access control, right. So, though we have heard about other type of access control like role based access control, this we term as a risk based access control. So, gives access to a subjects even though they lack proper permissions, right. So, I do not have to have the whole set of permissions which are fully coupled. So, whether I can give the access with some amount of risk involved in it, right. It is not that binary stop or on or off, but those sort of things. Goal balance between the access risk and security uncertainty due to information sharing, right. Flexible compared to the binary MLS. So, that is little bit of, as we are talking about that instead of binary I take care of little bit of risk. So, challenges computing security uncertainty is not a fully addressed stuff, right. So, how do I look at computing security uncertainty, right. Authorization in existing risk based access control system based on risk threshold and operational needs, right. Operational need not is quantified, it is difficult to quantify the operational risk, discards many requests which potentially maximize information sharing, right. So, in order to reduce it, we discussed many requests which potentially maximize the information sharing, so that my overall risk come down. So, in other sense, in order to reduce the risk, we try to reduce the collaboration itself, right. So, that is one of the looking at it. So, there is a distributed framework, as we used a fuzzy inference system to look at it, and it tries to find out a distributed rack into the thing. The next one is mapping authorized permission into local roles, right. So, inter-domain role mapping thing, IDRM. So, what we have, the finds a minimal set of roles which encompasses the request permission set. No polynomial time solutions are available, greedy search based heuristic, suboptimal solutions. Challenges, there may exist multiple minimal role set, right. So, there can be existing multiple minimal role set, there may not exist any role set which exactly map to the all permissions. So, there are different type of problems or challenges. So, two variant of IDRMs are there, one is IDRM safety and IDRM availability. So, IDRM availability and safety. Objective to formulate a novel heuristic, generate better solution to IDRM availability problem, minimize the number of availability permission. So, here also if you look at the distributed role mapping framework, so we have a set of permissions, access request handler, and we have local domains role set, role permission assignment, that role to permission set. So, which are set of permissions, and heuristic based IDRM availability problem solver, what we try to formulate or propose, and which gives a set of role which is a minimal set of role. And finally, there is the other aspect of dynamic detection and removal of access conflict. So, this is another major problem. Whenever we have multiple collaborations, so there may be a chance that there may be a cyclic access cycle, and it may lead to accessing some objects which are other way a particular subject is not supposed to access, right. Like if you look at this cyclic inheritance conflict, like this viewer, this particular things is not allowed to write or as editor permission, but I can have access to another domain which has a write permission, that is allowed, from there to another editing which has a editing permission. So, in other sense, I cannot write to this particular subject cannot write to this particular object, but I can have a cyclic way of this. So, inherit in a cyclic way and write to this. So, in other sense, I have done a conflicting situations which other way I am not supposed to do. There can be violation of SOD constant. So, SOD constant is the separation of duty. Like I can say a typical analogy, like say in a bank, the person who is issuing a demand draft cannot verify the demand draft. Like I am in the issue counter. So, if I am issuing the thing, issuing the draft, then the verification I cannot do the same thing, right. So, there should be has to be a separate things. So, it is a separation of duties has to be there, SOD, what we popularly known as SOD constant, which is there in any security information security mechanisms. So, here also we can see there may be a conflict in the SOD constant itself, like here I can have a write on the things, and I can have another channel with having this editor writing on there, this editor, and there is a communication here. So, I can basically, though there is a SOD constant, I communicate between through a different channel, right. So, there can be a violation of things. These things happens whenever there is a multiple communicating partner, especially when they are loosely coupled. That means, you do not know the whole security scenario of the other things or security settings of the other party. So, here also we try to for a particular distributed security collaborative framework which takes a set of roles and based on collaborative request processing modules and conflict detection and conflict removal module come up with a set of a scenario which will be conflict. So, role sequence interoperation request pair of entry from the domain exists from a providing roles, right. Role sequence ordered success of entry and exist role. So, I can have a safe role cycle and safe role cycle. So, it as we understand it has two things, one is that role detection, that is there if there is a conflict there you need to detection, it has two part, detection of the inheritance conflict, detection of the SOT constant violation. So, these two need to be detected, but and other is that now you need to remove the things. So, once detected that those conflicts need to be removed. So, one is that two cases may arise, exactly match role set exist. So, RBAC hybrid hierarchy, or there can be no exactly role set exist, right. I can so I can have a virtual role into the thing. So, I can create a dummy role and look at it, like if you look at cyclic inheritance, the cyclic inheritance conflict removal role for exactly match roles, what we do here. So, instead of this, after the conflict removal we create a collaborating role. See here it was basically it was a cycle to end up in this editor, whereas here inheritance conflict removal for no exactly match role. So, as there is no exactly match role of looking at it, so we create another sub role or new role which is fallback. Now, this viewer there is no way of going to this particular editor. So, that I am not going there is no conflict. Similarly, for conflict removal also we can have to SOD constant removal thing. Here also we have. So, this was our earlier scenario where this editor writes here and this viewer this editor can write has access to this and finally it goes to this editor 1 and 2, though there is SOD. So, there is a chance of a cycle which violates this SOD. So, here also if there is no exact match we created a collaborating role, right. So, it is a collaborating role of the editor 2. So, editor 2C and it hits ends up there. So, there is no SOD violation between the editor 1 and editor 2, right. So, that means what we are trying to look at that in doing so we may end up or may basically formulate a scenario where this where there is healthy collaborations between the things without security violations. So, this is a typical approach we try to show that how secure collaborated in the SaaS clouds can be possible. Definitely this is a very brief overview, but that is good enough, or it will help you those who are interested in this sort of research. See, there is in need of infrastructure is minimal, but however you can basically work on this sort of problem, right. So, one is that selection of the trustworthy and competing cloud provider, and after the selection we have the recommending access request from the anonymous users for authorization, then mapping of authorized permission to the local roles and detect dynamic detection and removal of the access control conflicts, like there can be cyclic inheritance problem conflict or SOD type of conflicts can be there which can be. So, what we tried today what we discussed today is that looking at one of the very tricky issue of security where collaborating SaaS cloud in a loosely coupled way. So, what are the typical security issues can come up and how to approach those problem to address this. There can be different other approaches you can find in the literature, and even you can think of other approaches, but this is a typical way of looking at it, and this is a problem which is very much pertinent and which is very much true for today's cloud scenario, collaborating cloud scenario. Thank you.